Hey everybody, this is Way to Fail here with another Kerbal Space Program career-ish mode. And you all may have noticed that I've started a whole new career kind of set here. Part of the reason is because I think Squad surprised everybody by saying, hey, guess what? The .22 update is coming out on October 16th, so it did not have to stay in testing long at all. I was kind of thinking I had through the end of October. So this video is actually from .21. It's going to be the last of this version of it, but I did want to kind of give a swan song because this is a 2-for-1 mission here, and this is going to be 2 missions simultaneously. This is my first one, which is a rover rocket going to the moon. I'm trying the rover thing again. You can see that this time I've just mounted a rover on top of some asparagus staging. It's going to be a night launch. I have little rockets that'll detach the ship and then kind of raise it up, hopefully on the moon's lesser gravity, but let's just go ahead and see how the launch goes here. And right away you can see I get some rotation in my ship because I don't think about things like dorsal fins. So we're just going to be trying to navigate up as much as possible. This is time accelerated. But the launch at least goes okay. There's going to be no docking here, no simple straight stuff. Instead, we're just going to be flying straight away up into the air, making an orbit, and then trying to hit the moon as much as possible. So this is a pretty good, mostly solid state rocket launcher here, and you can see that I do get a stable orbit, and then I just got to tweak my orbit a little bit to get to the moon, and we do get an encounter, and things do go pretty smoothly. All I got to do is just burn and fly. Now this ship does have some issues even with the SAS on, that it does like to rock or tilt in one direction, and I don't know what my ship directions are called, but I'm just going to say to the left. For some reason the rover's weighted differently, and if I'm not constantly pushing one direction and I'm not using fine controls here, I actually forgot they existed until I was looking at someone else's video. But yeah, pretty much it's just me constantly having to fight the tilt of this ship because it's not any of the extra rockets on there that are fighting, but we go fly towards the moon. Pretty simple, and you can see I am going to be getting a moon encounter here pretty shortly. So this is a mission that's going to be flying, and simultaneously I'm going to be raising up another mission to the moon. There is a true story behind why that happens, and I'll say later. But at least for now, look at my moon encounter. It's a crash course encounter. This ship is named Meteor, so you know what, why not? Let's just land it straight into the moon. None of this orbit shenanigans. And then we get to the second ship here. Now this is going to be a manned mission to the moon. Now this ship could possibly land and return. In fact, I do think I do have enough Delta V to do a potential moon landing and return, but that's not what I'm going to do here, is I do fight some of the item placement here. I do put some more fuel tanks on. I still have some solid rockets, and I'm going to put some dorsals on this at some point if I haven't already. Yeah, there they are. And this is going to be a manned orbit around the moon. So I do put some extra fuel on there just to try and give myself a little bit more of a payload, and obviously I got to put some space tape on there as well, so that increased the cost slightly. But still, the most important thing here is that we want to survive on this mission, especially after the failed rover mission. Finally been able to inform the budget hawks that, hey, cutting corners too much means failing things, and that just costs money to send more things up. So who's our crew? Jebediah is an option, but today instead we're going to be swapping him out for our more science-oriented Kerbal here. So let's go ahead and get flying. When I say more science-oriented, I should just say less stupid, or less likely to say, hey, we're at the moon, let's go ahead and fly. And you see how much more stable the liftoff goes now that I have dorsals on there, and I have more fuel, so I do get to do more of a burn. But unfortunately, and I'm trying to remember exactly which Kermit, if it's Bob or Bill. I'm actually looking at a tiny rendition of the window right now on this, but I do get an apoapsary quickly as Bob is flying up there. Now Bob's a science guy. He does know his flight mechanics enough okay. I think he got like C's or D's in flight school, which I guess in Kerbal Space Program is enough to be flying experimental craft. But you're going to see here one of the ugliest orbits I have ever made. Even when I was making my first orbit there is nicer. As you can see up there, the other moon flight actually flying towards there in the window. So we're going to get a flight here from Bob as he is going to be chasing off this other orbiter here, and he's going to be going for an orbit. And look at this. He started the burn. I'm going to say I didn't do it. It's Bob doing it. Starting the burn way too late for his other engines that are ditching, and you can see I am just pushing as hard as I can just to get the apoaps going up, and to try and get the orbit around, because the LV-909 is nice, but it is not super heavy duty. So this is going to be a very highly elliptical orbit, but it's either that or crashing back into the world. And it's not even going to be like a perfect big circle thing, I guess, because it is going to be from high Kerbal orbit to 66,000, not even enough to properly time accelerate. So that's a little bit annoying, but we're going to switch back to the rover now. As you can actually hear some background music here. Going closer here now. So while Bob is flying around derping, we're going to have the rover just going slowly towards the moon. As you can see, where exactly are we landing? I'm not entirely sure, but the plane orientation is changing. And we have, I don't want to say crash down, but it is called a meteor, so maybe we can call that. This is a probe body. The probe mind is on the rover. So once this ship gets ditched, it gets ditched. And you did see a little bit of a wave there or on the screen, flash on the screen. That's just because we are going into time acceleration mode just as we go on the descent, because I know when I land on the moon, I'm not great at landing on the moon, mainly because of the lack of atmosphere, mainly because I especially do a bad job here of finding a flat place to land and sticking with it. I instead just decide to say, screw it, let's go drop straight into the planet. Fortunately, I do have enough fuel to burn down or to lower my velocity quite a bit. But it's pretty much all on my ship's ability to maintain control. And once again, I'm having a lot of problems keeping this ship upright because the rover is not balanced and my ship's not balanced. So there's a lot of control issues. But there we go, the lunar surface is ever closer. At least we're not going to have a high velocity impact here. And do we have a landing? It's getting closer. You can see the scattered debris on the ground. As we're now looking at real time and just slowing down ever so much, and my velocity is still so high. Okay, so we're not at real time just yet. There we go. As we get the music cutting back in, and look at my surface speed here, there's two problems. I can see my shadow. You can hear me frantically hitting buttons because I have the loudest keyboard imaginable. And I can't just find the sweet spot to both decrease my surface velocity and to keep my ship in one plane. It's still tilting and I'm landing on a sloped surface. This is not going to end well. I got to slow down, but I'm speeding up. Oh, this poodle engine, it's not a poodle engine, but it's not doing a lot of good. 3, 4, oh, that's way too fast to hit the ground. And tip. We have touchdown. Unfortunately, we have ship down as well. Now, I could detach the rover and try and go here, but the rockets are only pointing certain ways here. So I do the stupid thing, because what are Kerbals going to do anything if stupid? And we're actually going to try and fly this rocket and see if we can get it up right. And there we go. Explosion 1, explosion 2. That's valuable science equipment. That is valuable budget material just hopping all around. Fortunately, none of the wheels are getting damaged at this point. Why isn't the rest of the ship made of what the wheels are made of? As we just get tilt, and then finally, whoever's controlling the probe, whoever that moron is, thinks, hey, wait, I can stop the legs here. Now, is it possible to rotate this? I don't know. But instead, there's the probe down still. Some key configurations missing. Try to do a leg flip and instead just end up flipping on the side here. So this is almost painful to watch. But we're going to have to leave this behind in 0.22, I believe. So there we go. So we get a few Steam notifications. I don't have them flashing up on my window, but you still get the little chat messages. I think my thought at the time was, this is a really inconvenient time. I'm trying to save my freaking rover here, because I actually have it on the moon. And one of the rockets was one of the things that actually exploded. So that's not good, because now if I try and fire my fuel right here that's on this, all it's going to do is drive it into the ground. So right now we have a turtle back upside down on his shell on the moon. We have a ditched rocket. I can try and fire the thrusters, but it does absolutely no good. So rock and tilt. Will that work? The moon has very low gravity and the wheels are spinning. And do we have a rover that's actually functional? None of the wheels are damaged. I don't know why, considering they were flying into the nice soft powdery surface of the moon. And one solar panel down. Looks like a communication array is still there. Science equipment's still there. Rover's driving backwards, but you know what? It's good. We have it. There's no lights on the rover. I still have the fuel ring, and I can actually check the temperature. It's balls cold. I can check the gravity, and it's not too great. Science equipment on the other side. I can check the barometric pressure, and there's no atmosphere, so that's not a surprise. And I can check the accelerometer and see things are going, and my rover is just driving, and I've tested it on Kerbal surfaces and it works. But the moon, don't forget, different resistance, different gravity. My rover is flying anytime I go like above about 5 meters per second. It just decides, oh, there's a rock, and because it's ground scattered, those are not full geometric rocks yet. They're just things you can drive through. And I try to turn at 10 meters per second. What an idiot. Oh, the rover made it on the ground, but explosion again. And what else is going to explode? The fuel box explode. Now, if the fuel explodes on top of a rover, chances are that it's gone and it's dead and it's done for. But instead, you know what? That probe core is made of, once again, the stuff the rest of the ship could be made. What I really don't understand is how the hell did 3 solar panels and a communication band there survive? But they did. So I do have a surface rover on the moon, and as long as it drives very, very slowly and very, very carefully, it too can go and explore and flip over. So now we're back to Bob. Bob, who is flying towards the moon with the other mission accomplished. He's been in orbit contemplating why in the world is he at 500,000, almost 500,000 meters above the surface for what was supposed to be a lower Kerbal orbit. So now he's going to have to burn a little extra fuel just to make this work. Bob, not the most adventurous one, actually getting nervous when he's hitting the throttle. Even though, dude, you're flying a rocket. You know how this works. You helped design this thing. But there's the moon. It is close to us. It is going to be an encounter. That we actually get multiple moon encounters here. But I want the one that's actually going to get us pretty close. And it's just a simple matter of getting into an orbit. It's going to be an ugly orbit just like before, or just like the ugly orbit around Kerbal, it's going to be an ugly orbit around the moon. But here we go, and you can see, unfortunately, that there is no rover showing up there on the ground. That's because when I was doing an experiment on here, I had a problem, decided to load a quick save, and it went to during the launch of the rover mission. So I actually had to end up lose and ditch that one. That's why it appeared here on this mission. So as much as we want to say they're simultaneous missions, we can just pretend. Now, Bob actually does manage to stabilize his orbit, and then while he's looking around there, look at this, kind of the Carl Sagan, to paraphrase here, every Kerbal that has ever lived has been on that one pale blue spot above the moon. Just every single one. Now, have there been other space programs or other Kerbals died in the past and went out? I don't know. Whatever backstory there is here, just it's a powerful image to see. You're looking out at one window, and that's billions of Kerbals that have lived and died. But after a few rotations, the simple mission here was to do 2 things. It was to orbit around the moon, have a manned orbiter around the moon, and Bob is still not terribly pleased about that, but then to return, and not just return, the other goal here is to not just have a landing pod, but to have the whole ship return. Now, one issue with that looking back should have been way more obvious and apparent than it was, is that I only have 1 parachute strapped to this. So if I am looking to possibly do what I'm thinking of, maybe I should have popped 2 parachutes. And this is also where I forgot. I was thinking, okay, I'm definitely going to be on land. I forgot that Kerbal had an orbital period of 4 hours. Or a rotation period. I believe it's 4 hours. But anyway, I'm on a totally different part of the map than I expected. And Bob is currently on a landing course. I'm hoping for it to be on that little peninsula next to the ocean, but I'm worried that it's going to end up in the bay or inlet instead. So I do start to do some retrograde burns. One reason I do want to save this is because I have had just some stupid derpy trouble in the past of running out of power while descending into these things and not having power to do the parachute. So you can see me switching the stages. I'm going to go for a full ship landing. And there's our glorious fireball as Bob is freaking out because his engine's on fire. And when they add fire damage, we're all really going to have to change the way we think about landing on planets like this. Or we're going to need some more heat-resistant things in general. But there we go. We're under 10,000 meters now. Parachutes deployed. Landing legs down. Bob is still not confident in what's going down. And I do have the fuel to do some more retrograde burning here. But is that what I'm doing? No, not really. And really, it's kind of at the last second where I realized I'm going 12.6 meters per second. Maybe I should burn some fuel here and actually slow down the descent. So I try and do that, but not enough. I don't slow it down nearly enough, so the ship hops. The legs don't break, fortunately, but are we going to fall? Are we going to timber? And explosion! Bob, you suck as a pilot. Bob, you're not doing this again. We should have sent Jeb. But Jeb would have been like, hey, guess what, guys? I'm going to Duna. because I can, because there we go. Bob even landed to a point where he can't get out of there. So there's your ship stats for this. Still a pretty good long flight. At least Bob Kerman can say he's the first person to ever go around here. But fortunately, with the way the ship is designed, can put up the legs, can roll over, and Bob does get to pop out of the ship. Gets to go, possibly walk to the beach, and more importantly, gets to put up the lamest flag I've ever seen a Kerbal put up, because Bob, he's a brain guy. He's not here to be creative or throw crazy interesting messages, as he's just smiling enough to say, like, look, I flew a ship. But there we go. Plaque text. Bob Kerman, moon orbit, Kerbal landing. Now, he's landed enough. I mean, the ship's there. None of it's really broken too much. But there we go. And that's where we landed the rover on the moon as well. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for this, as we get ship stats for that. Unfortunately, that mission got procedurally destroyed. But the other videos are not going to be from this timeline. I guess it'll be from a different time. Of the 0.22 update is here. But I just wanted to show you all what this is all about. So this is Way to Fail. Hope you enjoyed it. Watch out for more Kerbal Space Program.